My husband earns 1.85 million yuan a year. Every single cent of it, he transfers to his mother. Not 1 yuan left behind. The joint account card we share had 8 yuan left. I used those 8 yuan to buy 2 steamed buns, ate them calmly, and then accepted my company's decision to assign me to a 6-month work transfer to Frankfurt, Germany. Before boarding the plane, I turned off my phone. 4 days later, in a hotel in Germany, I turned it back on and saw 79 missed calls and 126 messages. The supermarket's air conditioning was blasting cold air. My exposed skin broke out in goosebumps. At the checkout counter, the POS machine let out a sharp, piercing beep. For the first time, a trace of disdain mixed with irritation appeared on the cashier's otherwise indifferent face. "Ma'am, your account doesn't have enough funds." She pushed the card back toward me and tapped the counter with her knuckle. I took the card in a daze, avoiding the gazes of the line of people waiting behind me. I opened my banking app, unlocked it with my fingerprint. The screen lit up. The savings account was jointly held by me and Chu Min. The primary account holder's name was his. The balance was displayed in glaring red numbers, cold and sharp, like needles stabbing into my heart. 8 yuan. I stared at the number. For 30 seconds, my heart didn't ache the way it used to. There was no familiar pain, no surging anger, just a vast, barren wasteland, silent and frozen. So this is what happens when disappointment and humiliation pile up to the extreme. You stop feeling anything at all. I apologized softly to the cashier, pushed away the half-filled shopping cart, and quietly walked past the eyes of everyone watching. I left the supermarket. The slanting sunset stretched my shadow long across the ground, like a silent struggle. I took out my phone and used the little change left in my WeChat wallet to pay at a roadside breakfast stall. 2 pork buns, please. The buns were warm when they were placed in my hands. I sat on a bench by the road and chewed mechanically, bite by bite. They smelled good. But I couldn't taste anything. For 3 years, Chu Min's 1.85 million yuan salary had passed through my life like a monsoon wind, never once stopping for me. Every payday, without fail, he transferred everything to his mother, Trong Lan, back in their hometown. He always justified it the same way. "She's good at managing money. We're young and spend recklessly. Let her keep it for us. It's saving for both of us." And that joint card, the one with 8 yuan left, was everything he left me and this so-called family. All household expenses, rent, car payments, utilities, weddings and funerals, came out of my salary card. Chu Min, a financial elite earning nearly 2 million a year, admired by everyone. In this marriage, he was nothing more than a consumer. And I, an architect with an income no lower than his, lived like someone drained dry. Still responsible for 3 meals a day. No different from a free nanny. When I swallowed the last bite of the bun, my stomach burned. I took out my phone and opened my company inbox, scrolling to the email Director Vong had sent an hour earlier. There was an important project in Frankfurt, Germany, lasting 6 months. He asked if I was willing to take it. I had declined before, citing family reasons. Now, I typed my reply. "Director Vong, I agree to take the assignment. I can depart for Germany immediately." Send. The glow of the phone screen reflected in my empty eyes. My numb heart finally gave one cold, decisive beat. When I got home, the lights were off. Chu Min was slouched deep in the couch, the light from his phone illuminating his handsome but selfish face. Game sound effects mixed with his smug bragging. "You're back," he said without looking up. "I just transferred another 50,000 to my mom. She likes that new imported massage chair, says it's good for her back." He didn't even bother to glance at me. I put down my bag and walked over, standing in front of him, looking straight at his face. "As long as she's happy," I said calmly, so calmly it felt foreign even to me. Only then did he look away from the game. Frowning, his tone full of reproach as if it were only natural. "Why are you back so late? You didn't cook dinner, did you?" "I'm starving." I suddenly laughed, a very light, quiet laugh. "I'm tired today. I don't feel like cooking. Order takeout." Without waiting for his reaction, I turned and walked straight into the bedroom, using my own money to order a light Western meal for myself. He must have sensed something was off about me today. But the pull of the game was clearly stronger. He muttered something about me being unreasonable and went right back to playing. That night, he slept deeply, snoring with satisfaction. I didn't sleep. I opened the wardrobe and began packing identification documents, award certificates, professional books, and the laptop that held all my project files and design drawings. I didn't have many clothes. For years, I'd barely bought anything decent for myself. Most of the closet was filled with his designer suits and shirts worth tens of thousands each. The irony was brutal. Every single piece had been bought with my card. I looked at the corner of the closet that had stood empty for 3 years. That empty space was everything I had sacrificed to this marriage. It was myself, swallowed whole. I took out my phone and calmly, step by step, canceled every automatic payment linked to my salary card. The mortgage, 15 yuan per month. The car loan, 6 yuan per month. Property management fees, 3 yuan per quarter. Utilities, gas. And his supplementary credit card with a 200 yuan limit. I rerouted every single payment channel to that joint account with 8 yuan left. When I finished, dawn was breaking at the horizon. I pulled my small suitcase and left without looking back, neither at him nor at the place that was supposedly my home. In the VIP lounge at the airport, I drank an iced Americano. The bitterness slid down my throat, but my mind had never been clearer. Before boarding, I took a photo of the massive flight information board and posted a private status on my WeChat Moments, visible only to myself. Goodbye to my old life. Then I turned off my phone. I knew a violent storm was about to erupt on the land behind me. And I would be standing on the other side of the world, watching the flames consume everything from afar, my eyes cold. This time, I was no longer the gentle, accommodating wife. I was the executioner. There was no sadness in my heart, only a shiver of anticipation. Cold and merciless, for the revenge to come. Frankfurt, Germany. Sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the hotel room, bright, almost blinding. There was no pressure, no arguing in the air, only the scent of grass and coffee. I felt like a withered tree transplanted into fertile soil, greedily breathing in freedom. My phone had been off for 4 days. For those 4 days, I threw myself fully into the project's preparation phase, meetings with German colleagues, site inspections, revising proposals. The professional competence that had been worn down by trivial marital struggles now shone brilliantly here. The feeling of being recognized and respected, something I had long forgotten, nearly made me forget the humiliation of that 8 yuan. On the 4th day, as dusk settled, I returned to the hotel after a long meeting. After showering, I put on a bathrobe and poured myself a glass of red wine. I thought, it's time. I sat down on the couch, connected my phone to the hotel Wi-Fi, and pressed the power button. The moment the screen lit up, the phone exploded like a bomb. Message alerts, missed call notifications, WeChat pings. A chaotic, piercing flood of sounds lasted nearly a full minute. The phone overheated trying to process it all. The screen was filled with red notification icons. 79 missed calls, all from one name, Chu Min. 126 WeChat messages, also all from him. I opened WeChat and began reading from the first message. They documented, in full detail, the complete collapse of a man, from arrogant confidence to total breakdown. Day 1, 9 p.m. Wife, why did you turn off your phone? I've been calling non-stop. I'm eating with clients, transfer me money for entertainment expenses. I forgot my card, where are you? People are staring at me. This is so embarrassing. Day 2, 10 a.m. Jianghua, what do you mean by this? Disappearing? The bank says the car loan payment failed. What's going on? Is your card messed up? I keep calling and your phone's off. If you don't respond, I'll call your company. I don't have a single cent. I haven't eaten. Day 3, 3 p.m. The property management came again. If we don't pay, they're cutting off water and disabling the elevator card. The water's already off. I told you to top it up earlier. Where the hell did you go? You ran off with the money. Didn't you? Jianghua, I'm warning you, don't play games with me. Day 4, 4 a.m. Wife, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Can you turn your phone on? Please. Can you at least reply to one message? I can't find you anywhere. I'm about to go crazy. There's no money at home to cook. And I can't even order takeout. I've barely eaten for 2 days. My stomach hurts so bad. Wife, I'm begging you, come back. This home can't function without you. I scrolled expressionlessly to the very last message, which was also the summary placed at the beginning of this whole story. Wife, I was wrong. Please come back. There's no money left at home to cook anymore. After reading all 126 messages, my heart didn't stir at all. I almost laughed at how absurd it was. A man earning 1.85 million yuan a year. A financial elite who could call the shots outside, yet the moment I was gone, he couldn't even manage to feed himself. He wasn't a husband. He was a fully grown infant, incapable of independent living, parasitically attached to me. And the so-called marriage between us had never been a family. It was a private charity organization I had founded, dedicated solely to supporting him. I didn't reply to a single one of his tear-soaked apologies. I opened my banking app and found the joint account I had nearly forgotten existed. From my personal salary card, I transferred 500 yuan into it. In the transfer note, I typed each word carefully. For the next 6 months, I will transfer 500 yuan as living expenses on the 1st of every month. Mr. Chu is an adult. Please learn how to manage your spending. Transfer successful. I took a screenshot. I didn't send it to him. That image was the obituary for the 3 foolish years of my life, now officially buried. Then I opened QChat, found his profile picture, and clicked Delete Contact. A window popped up. Do you want to add this contact to the blacklist? I checked the option to block his number in my phone contacts and confirmed. In an instant, the world became quiet. To someone accustomed to reckless spending, 500 yuan wasn't emergency aid, it was gasoline poured onto a fire. Chu Min's breakdown came faster than I expected. Less than 10 minutes after I blocked him, an unfamiliar domestic number rang. I answered. On the other end was Chu Min's hysterical screaming, barely restrained rage tearing through the line. Jianghua, what the hell do you mean? 500 yuan? Are you giving alms to a beggar? Are you trying to starve me to death? Don't think running abroad means I can't touch you. Before I could say a word, the phone was snatched away by someone else. It was my mother-in-law, Trong Lan. Her voice was even more vicious than Chu Min's, sharp, abusive, dripping with venom. Jianghua, you ungrateful wretch, my son works his ass off all year. Every cent is for you to spend. And you're still not satisfied? Now that you've got a little ability, you dare run away from home? Let me tell you, my son's money is my money. It has nothing to do with you. Don't you dare take a single yuan. Everything you eat, wear, and live in, what isn't paid for by my son? And now you dare put on airs with him? Get back here immediately and serve him, or I'll make sure you regret it. I listened quietly to the stream of curses, as if it were nothing more than static noise unrelated to me. Over the past 3 years, I had heard these words countless times, in countless forms. Once, they had hurt me. Once, they had humiliated me. Once, I had argued back. Now, there was only numbness and disgust. When she finally ran out of breath and stopped, I spoke slowly. My voice was light, but so cold it clearly caught her off guard. Oh, finished? Then I wish you and your precious baby a lifetime of happiness. I hung up immediately and blocked the number. I knew what would come next, a wave of harassment calls from his relatives. I decisively turned on block all unknown numbers. After everything was done, I leaned back on the couch and looked out at the night view of Frankfurt beyond the window. Things that had once pierced my heart now played like a silent black and white film in my mind. A year ago, my father suffered an acute myocardial infarction while exercising in the morning back home. He was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. The doctor said his condition was critical, he needed coronary bypass surgery immediately. The cost of surgery and recovery would be at least 100 yuan. I completely panicked. All my liquid funds were tied up in a short-term financial investment that couldn't be withdrawn yet. I cried as I called Chu Min, my voice shaking so badly I could barely speak. Chu Min, my dad needs emergency surgery. We need 100 yuan. Can you take some money from your mom and give it to me? There was a brief silence on the other end. Then, in his familiar tone, gentle but controlling, he said, "Don't worry, we're family. Your problem is my problem too. But all the money is with my mom. Invested in financial products now. You know that. Withdrawing early would cause major losses. Can you think of another way?" Clutching at the last straw, I begged him. "It's a matter of life and death. What does a little loss matter? My dad is waiting to be saved in the hospital." He continued calculating calmly. "It's not just about losses. That product is locked. It can't be withdrawn early. How about asking friends or colleagues to borrow some?" I hung up. My entire body went cold. The day before I begged him for help, I had accidentally overheard him on the phone with his mother, excitedly planning a vacation for his parents to Maldives. Budgeting, 100 yuan. 100,000 to take his parents on vacation, always available. 100,000 to save my father's life, invested. Not a cent withdrawable. At that moment, every ounce of love and illusion inside me shattered completely. I never begged him again. I wiped away my tears and called my university mentor. He didn't say much. Within half an hour, he transferred the money to me. My father's surgery was a success. The moment my father was wheeled out of the operating room, my heart went completely cold. From that day on, Chu Min was no longer my husband, no longer my family. He was merely a legal cohabitation partner. A low-quality partner, one that could be liquidated at any time. From that day forward, I quietly began preparing for my own rebirth. I opened a new bank account and redirected my salary there. I started collecting every piece of evidence related to our marriage. Every salary notification showing 1.85 million yuan transferred. Every transaction of him sending money to his mother. Credit card statements, bank records, shopping receipts for every family expense I paid. From mortgages and car loans to individual packs of salt and rolls of toilet paper. I scanned and photographed everything, categorized it, encrypted it, and stored it in cloud storage. I named the folder Rebirth Plan. The hysterical phone call from Trong Lan earlier was nothing more than the final signal. It pushed me to press execute. When Chu Min and Trong Lan realized they had completely lost contact with me, no matter what number they used, they panicked. Then they resorted to even dirtier tactics. Chu Min began spreading rumors in our mutual friend groups. He posted vague messages in a group chat of dozens of people. "My wife's been on a business trip for days. Can't reach her. Really worried. Sigh. Women these days are so wild at heart. Who knows what they're doing out there?" His drinking buddies piled on. Their words suggestive and malicious, hinting that I'd run abroad with money to hook up with a rich man. Meanwhile, Trong Lan went all out attacking my parents. She showed up at their residential compound, sat by the flower beds, crying and making a scene, accusing me of being an immoral daughter-in-law and an unfilial disgrace. She even stormed up to my parents' door, banging and screaming that they hadn't raised their daughter properly, that they'd produced an ungrateful monster. My mother was so angry she trembled all over. And my father, whose heart had just recovered, couldn't withstand the shock. His blood pressure skyrocketed, he clutched his chest and nearly fainted. It was my mother's tearful phone call that finally made me aware of everything. Her sobbing voice was full of fear and pleading. Wah, where are you? Come home, please. Chu Min's mother came to our place and caused chaos. Your father can't take it anymore. Just endure a little. Come back and talk it out. Okay? Listening to my mother's fragile begging, the anger I had suppressed finally erupted. Yet my voice was colder than ever. Mom, don't be afraid. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone. Take good care of Dad. Leave the rest to me. I hung up. Without hesitation, I called Attorney Lee, one of the top divorce lawyers in the country. We spoke online for nearly 2 hours. I laid out all the evidence and my demands clearly. After listening, Attorney Lee said only one sentence. Ms. Jiang, rest assured, we will win this. The next day, 2 identical lawyers' letters were sent via the fastest courier service. One to Chu Min's workplace, a top domestic financial investment firm. One to his parents' home address. The letters were concise, every word cut like a blade. First, a formal demand that Mr. Chu Min and Ms. Trong Lan immediately cease all acts of defamation, reputation damage, and harassment against Ms. Jiang Hua, or face legal consequences. Second, a demand that Ms. Trong Lan return all marital joint assets illegally transferred by Mr. Chu Min during the marriage, totaling 5.55 million yuan, 1.85 million multiplied by 3 years, within 3 days of receiving the letter. Detailed legal explanations were attached. In the appendix, the lawyer did not include the full evidence, only a summarized evidence list. The title of that list was printed in bold black letters. Detailed income and cash flow of Mr. Chu Min, 2021 to 2023. Chu Min received the lawyer's letter directly at his office. The receptionist handed him the thick envelope with the law firm's logo, drawing curious glances from nearby colleagues. When he tore it open and saw the massive number 5.55 million yuan, his entire body froze. It was said that even the company's CEO was alarmed. As for Trong Lan, she received her gift right at her residential compound, in front of all her neighbors. From the courier. When she saw the words, illegal asset transfer during marriage, her usually arrogant face turned deathly pale. And the final straw, the one that completely broke Chu Min, was the message I sent him. This was the first time I reached out again. Ever since I blocked him, I didn't type a single word. I sent only one screenshot. It was a screenshot of a cloud folder titled, Rebirth Plan. On the screen, the subfolders were neatly arranged, lined up one after another. Bank Statement Analysis 2021. Bank Statement Analysis 2022. Bank Statement Analysis 2023. Detailed household expenses paid by Jiang Hua. Risk assessment of assets and accounts under Chu Min's name. Legal analysis report on asset transfers and gifts during marriage. Chu Min completely panicked. He probably never imagined that the gentle wife who cooked for him every day, who obediently listened to him, had quietly woven such a precise, cold, and lethal net behind his back. He finally realized that what he was facing wasn't a simple family dispute. It was a carefully planned war, one he had no chance of winning. The lawyer's letter landed like a perfectly targeted bomb, leaving both Chu Min and Trong Lan reeling. After the initial panic, they switched tactics, playing the emotional card. Chu Min's messages were no longer threats or shouting. They were flooded with remorse and pleading. A few days later, he sent me a photo. In it, Trong Lan was wearing a hospital gown, lying in a hospital bed. Her face was sallow, an oxygen tube in her nose. The accompanying text overflowed with grief and self-blame. Wife, my mom was so angry after receiving your lawyer's letter that she suffered a cerebral hemorrhage. She's in the hospital now. The doctor says her condition is very bad. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have given all the money to her. I shouldn't have ignored your feelings. Can you come back? Come see her once. She might want to see you one last time. Looking at that blatantly overacted photo, I laughed coldly inside. Someone like Trong Lan, whose voice was loud enough to shake my parents' door, having a stroke over a lawyer's letter? I didn't reply. Instead, I asked a close friend back home, a former colleague who worked at a hospital, to visit my critically ill mother-in-law. Half an hour later, my friend sent me a secretly recorded video. In the video, Trong Lan was lying in a luxury private hospital suite. She looked nothing like someone at death's door. Half reclining on the bed, she was peeling a huge imported apple while barking orders loudly at Chu Min, who stood beside her. Massage my legs harder. You're weak even at lunchtime now? Put some strength into it. Pour me a glass of water, warm water. Chu Min scurried about like a guilty elementary school student, obediently pouring water, massaging her legs, pounding her back. So it wasn't critical illness at all. It was recuperation in a 5-star hotel-level hospital room. I downloaded the video, saved it, renamed it, Evidence of Fraud and Extortion Number 1, and uploaded it to the Rebirth Plan folder in the cloud. Those ridiculous theatrics had absolutely no impact on my life in Germany. On the contrary, my work was going exceptionally well. My professional competence and high efficiency earned strong praise from the German partner representative, Gu Vien. Gu Vien was ethnically Chinese, around 40, serious, upright, with healthy family values and very clear boundaries. He was like a gentle ray of sunlight, illuminating the 3 gloomy years of my life. Once, at a group dinner with a relaxed atmosphere, Gu Vien casually asked about my family. I didn't hide anything. I didn't complain. I simply said calmly that I was going through a divorce. When I mentioned that my husband had transferred all income from the 3 years after marriage, about 5.55 million yuan, to his biological mother, the German colleagues at the table gasped in shock. They couldn't understand such filial piety that crossed all personal boundaries, let alone accept a man controlling and exploiting his wife financially. In Germany, this would be illegal. An engineer named Sir said this constituted severe economic abuse. Everyone expressed sympathy and support. Gu Vien raised his glass toward me. His gaze was deep, filled with sincere respect. Ms. Jiang, you are very brave. You made the right decision. You deserve a better life, one with respect. The understanding from my colleagues and Gu Vien's recognition flowed over me like warm water, dissolving the last traces of hesitation and resentment in my heart. I became even more certain that my choice was absolutely right. That night, I replied to Chu Min. I didn't expose his lies. I didn't care about his critically ill mother. I simply chose a photo from my album, taken a few days earlier by a long river. In the photo, I was smiling brightly under the sunset. Behind me were a tranquil river and a beautiful ancient castle. I sent the photo to him, with one line of text. I wish Auntie a speedy recovery. Also, the scenery in Germany is beautiful, and the air is very clean. I believe that photo hurt him more than any harsh words ever could. My indifference made the critical illness farce impossible to continue. Seeing that emotional manipulation didn't work, they switched to slippery legal tricks. Through their lawyer, they claimed that the 5.55 million yuan was an unconditional gift, Chu Min's filial devotion to his mother, and fell under personal property disposal. Unrelated to me. They refused to return the money, clearly intending to stall and wear me down mentally. My lawyer told me cases like this could drag on. Even with solid evidence, the other side could appeal and delay endlessly. I couldn't wait anymore. I also didn't want to wrestle with them for another minute. So I decided to throw on another accelerant, a fire that would burn away every possible retreat. Late at night in Germany, I couldn't sleep. I opened my laptop and reorganized all financial documents in the Rebirth Plan folder. For 3 consecutive years, Chu Min had earned nearly 2 million yuan each year. Every salary payment was immediately transferred in full to his mother's personal account, received by Trong Lan on the same day. Under his own name, there were almost no major expenditures. All living expenses had been borne by me. A complete, clear, irrefutable cash flow chain formed. A massive black hole yawned open. I logged into the official website of the State Taxation Administration of China. Under the section for reporting tax violations, I filled out the form using my real information. The report was concise and direct. The reported individual, Chu Min, ID number, with the assistance of his mother Trong Lan, ID number, used personal accounts to circulate and conceal a large sum of money over a long period, deliberately evading individual income tax obligations, with suspected large-scale tax evasion. I compressed all prepared evidence into an encrypted file and attached it. Click Submit. The page redirected, displaying, "Your report has been received. Case number XXXXX." I took a screenshot. I didn't send it to Chu Min. For someone as finely tuned in self-interest as him, if you strike the vital point. I opened my email, composed a new message, attached the screenshot, and sent it anonymously to the public inboxes of the HR director and legal compliance director of Chu Min's company. Subject line: Severe tax risk warning regarding your employee Chu Min. In the financial industry, especially investment banking, where Chu Min worked, personal credit, financial integrity, and tax compliance were strictly scrutinized. Anyone with tax stains was absolutely barred from core projects. That email was a poison-tipped arrow aimed straight at his career. As expected, just one day later, I heard news from friends back home. Chu Min had been officially summoned by the company's internal investigation and compliance department. All major projects under his responsibility were immediately suspended and reassigned. He was placed on leave. The 1.85 million yuan annual salary he had always been so proud of suddenly became extremely unstable. This time, in the messages he sent me, he didn't even have the strength to scream anymore. All that remained was suffocating terror. "Jianghua, what do you really want? Will you only be satisfied after completely destroying me?" I looked at those 2 lines and replied calmly. "I don't want to destroy you. I'm only taking back what has always belonged to me. You destroyed yourself." Outside the window, Frankfurt began to snow. Large snowflakes drifted down gently, silently covering the world. I lifted the hot coffee on the table and took a slow sip. I knew the game had reached checkmate. Suspended from work. Under internal investigation. At risk of a tax audit at any moment. Those 3 mountains completely crushed the last line of psychological defense Chu Min had left. His and his mother's bank accounts could be frozen at any time due to my lawsuits and reports. At last, they had tasted the true meaning of having no way out. Cornered, Chu Min made a reckless decision. No one knew where he borrowed the money from, but he bought a plane ticket to Frankfurt, intending to face me in person, begging me to withdraw the charges. Perhaps deep down, he was still clinging to one last shred of hope. He believed that as long as he showed up in front of me, cried and begged in remorse like he had so many times before, I would soften and forgive him. He was wrong. He waited all night outside the lobby of the hotel where I was staying. The next morning, I gathered myself and prepared to go to work. Accompanying me was Ko Veen, the project lead. As we walked, we spoke in German, discussing the finer details of a design proposal. The atmosphere was light yet professional. Just as we stepped out through the hotel's revolving doors, a gaunt figure with unshaven stubble suddenly lunged toward me. It was Chu Min. He grabbed my wrist tightly, the force enough to make me flinch. His eyes were bloodshot, his voice hoarse as he pleaded desperately. "Wife, I was wrong. Please forgive me, okay? Let's go home. Let's start over. I'll get all the money back. Everything under my name, I'll give it all to you. You can manage everything." He looked utterly pathetic, like a drowning man clutching at his last piece of driftwood. My wrist was locked in his grip, and a wave of revulsion surged through me. I yanked my hand free and stepped back, as if I had just touched something filthy. There was no anger in my eyes, no shock, not even the slightest ripple of emotion, only an expanse of icy calm. I looked at him the way one looks at a complete stranger, someone utterly irrelevant. I turned to Covine beside me and spoke fluently in German. "Sorry, Mr. Ko, I don't know this person. He must have mistaken me for someone else. Let's go." My voice wasn't loud, but it was clear enough for Chu Min to hear every word. Covine immediately understood. With impeccable courtesy, he stepped forward, placing his tall frame politely between me and Chu Min. He addressed Chu Min in precise English. "Sir, please respect her. She does not know you." I walked straight past Chu Min without sparing him a single glance. Covine and I resumed our earlier conversation, chatting casually as we walked away, our voices gradually fading into the distance. Chu Min stood frozen in place, like a stone statue weathered by time. He watched my resolute back as I spoke a language he couldn't understand. Laughing easily with another man, refined, handsome, and utterly out of his reach. At that moment, the entire world he relied on to uphold his pride collapsed completely in the cold morning wind of Frankfurt. It was more humiliating than any argument or curse. It was absolute disregard, born from the depths of the soul. Publicly humiliated in Germany, Chu Min returned to China in utter disgrace. His last hope was probably the apartment where we had lived together for 3 years. He likely believed that by returning to that familiar space, he could find some comfort, some trace of the past. He dragged his exhausted body back to our apartment complex, took out his key, only to find it wouldn't fit. The lock had been completely replaced. Before leaving, I had hired someone to change all the lock cylinders to new C-grade ones. Furious, he called a locksmith. After considerable effort, the door was finally forced open. The moment the door swung wide, he went completely numb. The apartment was empty. Not just my personal belongings, everything we had bought together was gone. The expensive sofa, dining table, TV, refrigerator, all the furniture and appliances had vanished. The apartment looked like a newly delivered bare unit, 4 stark white walls and a dusty floor. He went mad and called me. This time, I answered. On the other end was furious shouting, bordering on a breakdown. "Jianghua, where's everything? Where's the furniture? Where did you take it all?" I listened to his yelling, my tone as calm as if we were discussing the weather. "Our home?" I let out a soft laugh. "When I used my last 8 yuan to buy 2 steamed buns. That so-called home stopped existing." "Oh, the furniture?" I paused briefly, then continued in a matter-of-fact tone. "I called a second-hand dealer. Sold everything for 30,600 yuan. I donated the entire amount, on behalf of both of us, to a foundation protecting women's and children's rights. I'll email you the electronic donation certificate later." On the other end, I could hear his heavy, labored breathing, as if someone were strangling him. I didn't stop. I continued pressing salt into the wound. "And one more thing, I've entrusted the apartment to a real estate agency for rental. Starting next month, a new tenant will move in. The rent will be transferred directly into the court-supervised account as part of the marital assets pending division in our divorce. Chu Min, you no longer have a home." With every sentence I spoke, his breathing grew heavier. When I finished the last line, I heard the phone drop to the ground, followed by uncontrollable, despairing sobs from a man who could no longer hold himself together. He had completely collapsed. Sitting alone in that cold, empty apartment, he was forced, for the first time, to revisit the 3 years of our marriage. He remembered how I woke up at 6 every morning, preparing nutritious breakfasts and ironing his shirts until they were perfectly crease-free. He remembered how my father lay outside the operating room, how I called him in tears, and how he coldly refused to come. He remembered the countless times I cautiously suggested setting up a family savings fund, only to be met with his disdainful, mocking gaze. He remembered how I gave up promotions, hobbies, even myself, for what he called family, while he accepted all of it as a matter of course. Regret flooded in like an icy sea from all directions, drowning him completely. For the first time, he realized in agony that what he had lost was not a free housekeeper, not an ATM, but a woman who had once given him all her love, who had once made him her entire world, who had carried the weight of his glamorous life on her shoulders. He began texting me frantically. No more threats, no more interrogations, only remorse-filled confessions and memories of warmth from the past. He tried desperately to awaken whatever feelings I might still have left. But he didn't know that once a heart is dead, no memory can draw a single tear. To me, his entire performance was nothing more than a clumsy clown's solo act. The 6-month work project in Germany concluded perfectly. When I stepped back onto my homeland, I was completely transformed. My hair was neatly cropped short. I wore a finely tailored business suit. My face carried a calm, confident smile. Under the sunlight at the airport, I was no longer Mrs. Chu, with weary, damp eyes. I was Jianghua, independent, strong, reborn. The first thing I did after returning was meet my lawyer. The divorce hearing had already been scheduled for 1 week later. When Lawyer Li saw me, her eyes were full of admiration. "Ms. Jiang, you look very well." I smiled, because I knew the darkness was about to end. "Yes," Lawyer Li nodded, then grew serious. "And there's more. I've discovered something new, something that may end this darkness completely." She handed me a stack of documents. While reviewing Mrs. Trong Lan's bank statements, we found a highly suspicious recurring transaction. On the 15th of every month, exactly 20,000 yuan was transferred from her account to a personal account under the name Lam Hu. The transactions were consistent for 3 full years. Through several channels, we confirmed that Lam Hu is neither a relative nor a business partner of your family. Lawyer Li looked at me and spoke each word slowly. "She is Chu Min's college girlfriend." My head buzzed, hollow and ringing. The name Lam Hu, I had heard it before. She was the white moonlight Chu Min once mentioned. The woman who broke up with him after graduation because she thought he was poor. Lawyer Li continued, "Our investigation shows that 3 years ago, shortly after you got married, Lam Hu was involved in a severe car accident. The accident left her paralyzed from the waist down. She has required long-term treatment at a very expensive private rehabilitation center. The cost is exactly 20,000 yuan per month. No more and no less. That amount corresponds precisely to her monthly medical treatment and caregiving expenses at the center." The truth was like a dull, rusted knife plunging straight into my heart, then twisting mercilessly. So this was the so-called filial piety he was always talking about. The excuse he constantly used, claiming that giving money to his mother was the safest choice, was not only meant to satisfy his mother's greed and her obsessive desire for control. More importantly, he had used filial devotion as a cover, routing money through his mother's account to conceal the fact that he was siphoning marital assets to financially support and maintain that bedridden, white moonlight of his. When my father suddenly suffered a myocardial infarction and urgently needed 100,000 yuan to save his life, he couldn't spare a single cent, cold-blooded and indifferent. Yet in the same breath, he casually used money soaked with the sweat and tears of both husband and wife, most of it saved from my salary, to nourish his pure and untouchable white moonlight. The irony was unbearable, absurd to the point of physical pain. I sat deep in the soft armchair of the law office, staring at the brilliant sunlight outside the window, and suddenly laughed. After laughing, the tears came flooding out uncontrollably. So it turned out that I wasn't just doing charity. I was a fool who had been deceived to the bone by that mother and son pair. I had used my own flesh and blood to sustain an entire family of parasites, and had even funded the great love of his life that had never truly died. I wiped away my tears. In that instant, the overwhelming sense of absurdity transformed into a burning hatred that scorched my heart and soul. I lifted my head and looked at Lawyer Lee. My voice trembled slightly from rage held to its limit, but my eyes were steady as steel. Lawyer Lee, I want to amend the lawsuit. I want to sue him for marital infidelity and malicious fraud. I want him to pay substantial compensation for emotional damages. This final, dirtiest trump card, I will save it for public disclosure in court. Right in front of him. Right in front of his greedy mother. In front of everyone, I will expose it myself. This is no longer a simple divorce. This is a reckoning, a full reckoning for the 3 years of stupidity in my life. In the courtroom, the lights were blindingly bright. The gallery was packed, family members from both sides, along with several of Chu Min's colleagues. Chu Min and his mother, Trong Lan, sat at the defendant's table, their faces drained of color. When the trial began, they still stubbornly tried to hold their ground. Their lawyer launched into an aggressive defense, arguing that the 5.55 million yuan was filial support and gifts from a son to his mother, a fine moral tradition of the nation and fully protected by law. Trong Lan even broke into dramatic sobs during questioning, tears and mucus streaking down her face as she cried about how hard she had worked to raise her son, insisting that a son's filial devotion was only natural. As for me, the daughter-in-law, I was portrayed as a money-grubbing woman blinded by greed, trying to seize their family's property. I watched their clumsy performance calmly. Then it was my turn to speak as the plaintiff. I did not ask my lawyer to represent me. I walked up to the witness stand myself. I didn't cry, I didn't shout, I didn't even display any strong emotion. I simply opened my laptop and projected my presentation onto the large screen in the courtroom. Slide after slide appeared. Each page was a clear, irrefutable table of evidence. Mortgage payments from 2021 to 2023, a total of 540 yuan. Payer, Jianghua. Car loan payments from 2021 to 2023, a total of 216 yuan. Payer, Jianghua. Daily household expenses, utilities, property management fees, from 2021 to 2023, a total of 87 yuan. Payer, Jianghua. Holiday gifts, travel expenses, and cash gifts for both sets of parents from 2021 to 2023, approximately 150 yuan. Payer, Jianghua. Each receipt, each bank statement. They landed like sledgehammers, smashing directly into the hearts of everyone present. Then the screen changed. What followed were Chu Min's salary statements, each large paycheck transferred out in full within 24 hours of being deposited. Every cent sent directly into the personal account of the defendant, Trong Lan. 3 years. Total cash flow, 5.55 million yuan. Trong Lan shifted restlessly in her seat, her face turning deathly pale, then an ashen green. Chu Min kept his head lowered, unable to look at the screen, unable to look at me. The courtroom fell into absolute silence. I turned toward the presiding judge, my voice steady and clear. Your Honor, in addition to the illegal transfer of marital assets, I have new evidence to present today. This evidence is sufficient to prove that the defendant Chu Min engaged in serious marital infidelity and deliberate deception during the existence of our marriage. The moment I finished speaking, the courtroom erupted into murmurs. Chu Min jerked his head up, his eyes filled with terror and disbelief. I ignored him and handed my final piece of evidence to the court officer. It was a complete set of Trong Lan's bank records from the past 3 years, showing a regular transfer of 20,000 yuan every month into the account of Lam Hu. Alongside it were photographs taken by a private investigator, showing Chu Min repeatedly entering and leaving the private rehabilitation center late at night to visit Lam Hu. Holding the microphone, I spoke word by word, publicly unveiling the final truth before the entire court. The defendant, Chu Min, together with his mother, Trong Lan, acted in malicious collusion. Not only did they illegally transfer all of our marital assets, they also used that money, most of it earned from my salary, to provide long-term financial support to his former girlfriend, Lam Hu. Meanwhile, when my father urgently needed 100,000 yuan for life-saving surgery, Chu Min used the excuse that his funds were tied up in investments and refused to give even a single cent. Your Honor, this is what he calls filial piety. This is what he calls love. Boom. My words exploded like a bomb in the solemn air of the courtroom. The entire gallery erupted. In the audience, Chu Min's colleagues looked on in shock and undisguised contempt. At the defendant's table, Trong Lan seemed to lose all strength the moment she heard the name Lam Hu. She slumped back into her chair, mumbling weakly, "It's over, it's all over." As for Chu Min, he stared straight at me, his eyes a chaotic mixture of fear, pleading, regret, and utter despair. At last, I looked him directly in the eyes. My gaze was cold, sharp as a sword freshly drawn from its sheath. There was no pity, no lingering affection, only the icy satisfaction of a long-avenged grievance. His dignity, his career, his self-made legend, his so-called love, everything was torn to shreds by my own hands. In full view of everyone. The final verdict came with no surprises. The moment the judgment was announced, sunlight streamed down from the high windows, casting a bright glow across the courtroom floor in front of me. First, the court approves the divorce petition filed by the plaintiff, Jianghua, against the defendant, Chu Min. Second, the court finds that the defendant Chu Min and his mother, Trong Lan, acted with malicious intent to conceal and illegally transfer marital assets. The defendant Trong Lan is ordered to return the full amount of illicitly transferred assets, 5.55 million yuan, within 15 days of the judgment taking effect. Third, due to Chu Min's serious fault during the marriage, including financial fraud and marital infidelity, the remaining marital property, primarily real estate, shall be divided with 70% awarded to the plaintiff, Jianghua. Fourth, the defendant Chu Min is ordered to compensate the plaintiff Jianghua 300,000 yuan for emotional damages. The apartment we once lived in together, most of the down payment had been paid by me before marriage, and the entire mortgage afterward had been borne solely by me, was awarded to me in full. Chu Min left with almost nothing. Not only did he owe me financially, he also had to face the obligation of repaying the 5.55 million yuan to his own mother. But the most fatal blow came from the court's final ruling. Clues related to tax evasion uncovered during the proceedings would be lawfully transferred to the relevant tax authorities for further investigation. This meant that Chu Min would not only lose his prestigious job entirely, but also face massive back taxes and severe financial penalties. His life fell straight from the clouds into the abyss. As for Trong Lan, forced to comply with the judgment, the only house registered under her name was sealed by court order and scheduled for auction. Mother and son, once people who lived in luxury, accustomed to commanding others from the upper middle class, became penniless overnight. Drowning in debt, cast down to the very bottom of society. When I stepped out of the courthouse, Chu Min abandoned all dignity and rushed forward, dropping to his knees in front of me. He grabbed my pant leg, his face smeared with tears and mucus, slapping himself wildly. Jianghua, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Please forgive me. Just give me one more chance. It was all my mother's fault. She was possessed by greed. I'll cut ties with her. From now on, I'll listen to everything you say. I stood above him, looking down at the man who once stood tall and imposing before me, now reduced to a dog with its tail tucked between its legs, begging for mercy. I said nothing. I simply lifted my foot and stepped over the hand clutching at me. A few days later, he knelt outside my door, kowtowing over and over until his forehead split and bled. I watched his pitiful state coldly through the peephole, then reached out and closed the cover over the lens. I sent him the final message of our lives intersecting. 8 yuan was the final price you placed on this marriage. Leaving with nothing, ruined and bankrupt, is the return gift I give to you and your mother. After sending it, I blocked all contact from him once again. From that moment on, the dust between us finally settled. We owed each other nothing. 1 year later, using the money I had recovered along with my accumulated savings, I founded my own architectural design studio. Thanks to the connections and experience I had built during the Germany project. The studio quickly got on track and even gained a modest reputation in the industry. I bought my parents a spacious apartment with elevators in a city with a better living environment. And hired professional caregivers for them. I took them to Maldives, somewhere they had always dreamed of but never visited. Standing by the clear blue sea, watching my parents' radiant smiles, I felt a peace and happiness I had never known before. I reclaimed every hobby I had once lost to marriage. I went mountain climbing, scuba diving, learned oil painting, and sketched my way across the world. My life became busy, full, bathed in light and hope. Covine was transferred back to China for work as well. We became very close friends, occasionally having coffee together, talking about architecture, art, and the future. He once expressed feelings for me that went beyond friendship. I simply smiled and said, "Don't rush, I want to enjoy living on my own for a while." He respected my choice, looking at me with gentle, unwavering eyes. "I'll wait for you," he said. News of Chu Min and his mother still reached me occasionally through old acquaintances. I heard that after being blacklisted for dishonesty and tax violations, Chu Min was shunned by the entire financial industry. He could no longer find decent work and could only scrape by doing low-paying odd jobs. Trong Lan couldn't bear the fall from heaven to hell. Her mental state deteriorated. She spent her days wailing in their rented apartment, cursing her son for being useless. Cursing me, her former daughter-in-law, as a jinx who ruined their family. The residents in their complex treated them like a joke. Once, while waiting at a red light outside a luxury shopping center downtown, I glanced to the side and saw a delivery rider in a yellow uniform weaving clumsily through the crowd on an electric scooter. That back looked very much like Chu Min. He was darkened by the sun, sweat-soaked hair plastered to his forehead, his face worn and weathered, head lowered in a hurry as if afraid of being recognized. Our eyes did not meet through the car window. The light turned green. I withdrew my gaze, stepped on the accelerator, and watched that disheveled figure recede in the rearview mirror. Inside the car, the sound system was playing my favorite song, a song about freedom. My phone screen lit up with a notification. My design studio had just won an award in an international architectural design competition. I looked ahead at the wide road before me, flooded with sunlight, and smiled softly. The best revenge is never hatred or entanglement. It is living a life the other person will never reach. And never measure up to. And I did exactly that. That's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like the video, subscribe to China Story Tales, and stay tuned for more stories.